Good evening and welcome. Today's topic is possibly my most candid and personal topic as I can have to share for the experience. The topic that I'm going to share, I'd like to share with you today is about the spirit of Jezebel. The spirit of Jezebel. There is a story in the Old Testament where the term comes from. There was a queen, Queen Jezebel, and she was married to a husband who she controlled, manipulated, and got to do her bidding. This spirit is known to be cunning, manipulative, and I personally came across knowledge of or awareness of this spirit through learning about people that have narcissistic traits and who are controlling and manipulative, because when you realize that people that have these traits are controlled by this spirit, and the spirit of Jezebel she's known to attach to men or women. It's actually the spirits are unisex. They don't have a gender or anything. But so when you think of Jezebel, you do think of just like a woman, seductress, temptress woman, but they come in all shapes, sizes, men, women, and this spirit, it inhabits people who have a calling. So it attaches to people to derail them off what they're supposed to do in life. So a person, for instance, will find themselves being distracted with habits, perhaps, indulging with it can be anything. Basically, the spirit attaches onto this person's most fragile states, their weaknesses. So it attaches onto the person's weaknesses and it amplifies them, and then it ends up the spirit now begins to inhabit a person, and once it inhabits the people, it derails them. So then people start to lose awareness of their calling. Now this spirit, it begins very subtle, and it begins to grow as the person grows. So it rebels. You could say it rebels when a person begins to come into awareness. You could say that the spirit then starts to manifest either in the person or in the people that are closest to the person, the inner circle of people. So basically the idea of the spirit, the plan that it hatches, is to stop a person's calling. stop you following your dreams. It's a dream destroyer. The spirit aims to stop people from following their dreams, what they were supposed to do. Going off track, being distracted, being led the wrong way. You can, there's so many names and so many stories that you can think of. If you just open a magazine, you can see the influences of this particular spirit. It relies on people not knowing, having awareness of the actual spirit itself. So it relies on, you could say, covert, or it relies on subtle manipulations at first in the beginning. So you can meet somebody who has this sort of mystique about them and an aura about them, very charismatic. Usually people are that are inhabiting this spirit. You know, the lady in the red dress is a typical example that we've seen so many times. You know, the seductress. These people. They'll be very kind, very nice. They'll be everything a person wants. They will see. Be very mindful in a way, because it displays things that everything that you want. But there's always a catch of some sort. Something doesn't quite add up. You know, there's something that isn't quite what it seems. There is a, if you pay attention over time, the mask begins to slip. So, you know, if a person's, the people that are harboring this spirit, they have their hands in so many pies. You know, at the same time, they're here with a person, and then you can catch, you know, because people are always going to be people, regardless whether they're inhabiting a spirit. They're able to make a human error, and usually that's how you find out that somebody is quite off with this spirit. But one thing that is very important to be mindful is, if you do identify a person that is harboring this sort of spirit, that is very important that you separate yourself from these people, because their purpose is to be in your way and to get inside, to stop you from moving forward. So be very mindful. Once you identify a person as this spirit, they're not the person for in your favor. And it could be shocking in the beginning. There's an element of shock, because the person could be everything that you thought you ever. They say all the right things, and then when the mask starts to slip, you start to realize that they are not who they're supposed to be. And on the other hand, the other element is that they have their agenda is to stop you from reaching the agenda that you have from God. Every person has some sort of calling, and this spirit, its main duty is to stop people from their calling. And those people that know their calling is also to try and hinder their calling. So, for instance, many things were going on inside my life. Some were some things made sense, and some things didn't make sense. Like life was in turmoil, and once I began to separate from people, I started to realize, because from a broader point of view, you begin to see, you begin to some people gain more when they have less. So from my own experience, I started to see that the people around me, I had to separate from them. As much as there were people that we love and care about, you realize that in order for you to make your own, for you to follow for you to continue developing, you will have to sacrifice parts of yourself. You will have to let go of things that you never thought that you never thought you could live without. But our calling, it requires us to be totally devoted to what it is we have been called to do, by recognizing what we have to move and let go of. We acknowledge our calling. We acknowledge our calling, and we say we are ready to take on this mantle. Along the way, you find people that will distract and will intercept and try to take advantage of your friendship, your kindness, your empathy, how you are as a person. They will try to use that against you. And by doing so, people that are harboring this spirit, people who harbor this spirit, you find that the spirit is working through people. You have two sides of, you have two forces. You have you have God, Holy Spirit side, and you have those people who are operating under they are operating under these spiritual forces, these spirit. The spirit is Jezebel is one. It's principalities. They say, for we wrestle not against flesh, but against principalities in higher places. Ephesians 6 verse 12. that speaks about, it's not the people, but it's the spirit behind the people that we are actually dealing with. The battle is against, the battle is a spiritual battle going on. So when you're faced to make certain decisions, know that the decisions you're making are more of a higher thinking than the normal daily decisions that we're making, because a decision made in a normal day, it carries a lot of weight in the spiritual. It carries a lot more weight. So, this spirit, I'll give you a quick idea of possibly how this spirit it begins to manifest in people, because people that have a calling, they have gone through a lot of trials and tribulations and things that have made them experience traumatic events in their life. Some people go through child abuse, sexual abuse, things like that. So when that happens, when that traumatic point happens, the spirit attaches itself, because that creates an opportunity for the spirit to start to grow and manipulate the person. So these people that are infected by this spirit, think of them as just being like a host. They're hosting these spirits, but you must cut the spirit off. You must cut the spirit off, regardless of who the people are in your life. You must cut the spirit off and not look like you're cutting them, because when you cut the spirit, you will liberate them. You will help to liberate them. That will be a starting point for them to find liberation and eventually their own salvation, because this spirit, it has no other plans other than to send people down the wrong path and road to destruction. Like, very much plain and simple. So when the trauma happens, the spirit attaches onto people and it begins to manipulate from very subtle influences, starting off, maybe somebody's unruly child growing up, and then they grow up, and then it begin to escalate. But as you get into your teenage years, you do have an opportunity, and at all times there is an opportunity to liberate oneself from this spirit. And the way to liberate oneself is through awareness. When you realize that you are under this influence, you can look for deliverance. You can look for deliverance, do daily prayers, release, the lust. And how you can tell you're possibly underneath these influences, you may have some sort of those dreams, nocturnal nightmares. When you wake up screaming, you see strange serpents in your dreams. You see strange animals that are very violent in nature. When you start to see these things, those are ways that that's the way that we're being told that something we need to be aware of. become aware, and then that starts your process to healing. Prayers, things that helped me personally was also to carry, some sort of talisman. I would carry a talisman, I wear a crystal on my chest. That was a talisman that helped me get through. And then once you develop that safety within yourself, because one thing that this spirit does is it starts to project. It projects your fears, your deepest, darkest fears that you have that are unresolved within yourself. People that have fear of abandonment, they start to believe that they're not good enough for anyone that's around them. They start to think the worst in people because they consider that people around them are really just a threat. People just are potential threats. So they self-sabotage them. They end up self-sabotaging in many ways. So it starts to project, all phobias, fears. It starts to project all these things in your awareness, into your experience. So awareness is the very first step, because you become aware that this is happening, and then you must go into some form of inner reflection, see what is really yours, because it causes intrusive thoughts. We done a video about this recently. It causes intrusive thoughts, and it basically tries to use your own mind against you, and then for you to harm yourself with your own hand, by your own hand, your own, nobody's going to hurt you, but it tries to turn yourself against you. And then it will use other people also around you. And how it happens, how it uses people around you is, it will send narcissistic people into your life, because all narcissistic people are carrying a form of a spirit, and especially this spirit, they're all carrying this spirit. So it sends them to you. These people come into your life, they know things about you, they kind of know how to probe you, but these people are being used. These people are simply a host, and they need liberating. And I was once a host myself, so I know that. I needed liberating. I needed intervention. And so these people, they need that intervention, but yet they are being controlled and as a host, and they have, some people are infected with this spirit, and they infect those people they come into contact with. Now they infect those people that they come into contact with, and one of the many ways that they do this is through they probe your trauma. Now, the best thing you can do is stay away from anybody that you know is suspected. Stay away from them and know that that it's not the person that you're staying away from. If you do come into contact with these people, you may have to expose them. In fact, you do have to expose them, because these people are a blindfolded passenger who's been taken for a ride, and they are unaware. So when you expose them, you actually lift the blinders off them. And this is also a way that God uses us, He uses us to reach these people. He uses us to reach them, for them to realize what has been going on, because they are really under some form of a spell that has developed over a period of time. Usually it goes back from childhood. So sometimes tough love is a way of you helping these people to liberate once you expose them. But effectively, the road for them is you don't have to be you don't have to be in line with these people, because their job is to prevent you from moving forward. But if they come into your path, you have to be swift and move and maneuver them out of your way, because your path is you must look at it like a solitary, you're single-minded. You have to be single-minded about your path. Once you've come to your decision, once you've answered your calling, you have to be very single-minded. These people can be your own mother, your own parent, your own father, your own mum, your own sisters, people very close to you. It infiltrates all people. Now, in closing, just to reiterate the importance of dealing with and exposing and extinguishing this spirit, is because it has the intention to stop your growth, to stop you from reaching your potential. The spirit's intention is to derail you, stop you from gaining your inner power. It tries to take the power away from you. So this is a very serious topic that I hope that people will take very seriously, and perhaps look, and maybe if this is the first time you've come across somebody speaking about this spirit, and if you think you might have people around you, then remember that we're not dealing with somebody who's just a, the spirit is operating through the person. The person is a host. And we only look at them as that until they are liberated and set free. Okay, today's topic was the spirit of Jezebel. I hope to conclude this video and hopefully speak to you very soon with further updates and things that you can do to protect and look after yourself on your on your journey. All right, good night.